But I very much agree. The question how to sustain the movement beyond this summit is the most important one. And we believe it's very much possible because there is a pre-existing movement for the transformation of education. It's teachers, it's young people, it's students. And they have been involved in the struggle for the transformation for generations. And it's effectively, fundamentally, a struggle for publicly funded education that is accessible to all. Yet we are still not there. This is clear. So we need to think what we're going to do. We need to stop preaching to the believers. We need to get those into the room and onto the table that are not here with us. And that very much includes the International Monetary Fund that rejected the Secretary General's invite to join the discussions and talk about one of the most important things, financing of education. So what we need is civil society to be more loud than ever before and more critical. We need the private sector to be socially engaged, and we need them to give their fair contribution by paying taxes. And we need you, as leaders of the world, to invest in young people, in students and teachers, the groups between whom the process of education takes place. Like this, we can democratize our classrooms, our communities, our nation states, the international system. And we can only do it together with the stakeholders that were convened here in this summit, with respect to existing movements and with the concerns and aspirations of the most marginalized at the heart of the discourse. It's time to go home and be multiplicators and ignite the movement that we had here in our communities and constituencies.
Hello, my name is David Nhambiye, the Executive Director of Aspire Debate Rwanda. Aspire Debate, we believe in empowering Rwandan youth on leadership and communication skills through debate education and other forms of public speeches.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here as a student and as a student leader who I believe is a vessel for the millions of voices of the other students around the world. So some of the concrete actions that I would propose here as a student leader is firstly that we must reframe and redefine quality education. Now, for the past couple of years, we have talked about quality education being inclusive and equitable, and that's a very good place to start. But when we consider the pandemic and we consider the crises, quality education must also be adaptable, and it must also be able to withstand different settings and situations. So we cannot say we have true quality education if after we've had a crisis, then the entire education system collapses. In Europe, during the pandemic between March 2020 and March 2021, you would have lost 25.6 weeks of school.
International Student Day is a significant period in world history. To celebrate the day, great effort and sacrifices were made. In support of an independent Czechoslovakia Republic, the University of Prague students held a protest demonstration on November 17, 1939, calling for the killing of Jan Opleta and Václav Sedelek, who were students. German Nazi forces stormed the university campus as the protest got underway, killing 9 student leaders and professors while sending 1,200 students to a death camp. Today is primarily observed to remember the students' tenacious spirit and to recognize our accomplishments in a variety of fields. International Student Day was established in 1941 by the International Students Union of London and other student organizations. In 2000, the United Nations declared the day a global holiday. Students organize a variety of events and take part in this particular day in different regions of the world. On this day, many meetings, forums, and conferences are held, and several competitions are also organized. Even festivals are planned with meals and beverages, just as the Commonwealth Students Association is having an inter-regional debate among student leaders from various countries of the Commonwealth today to discuss about adequate financing models for student movement. Worthy of commendation is that Greece and the current Czech Republic both observe the day as a national holiday. This year, and as student stakeholders, we have the chance to recognize students all over the world. Students globally put in a lot of effort to pursue their career objectives and maintain a healthy lifestyle. Many students leave their homes and travel great distances to attend a university, which is crucial to their pursuit of a better life and support for their families and loved ones. We need to respect and appreciate this. Even though student life is challenging for everyone, there is no disputing that international students encounter a number of difficulties. These include a lack of home, language obstacles, cultural disparities, and financial issues. While many domestic students totally commit to their studies and create new acquaintances, international students face numerous challenges. While most students return home to visit their loved ones, international students do not have this luxury. The lessons learned through celebrating International Student Day include nurturing and providing students with a lovely study environment, teaching students to respect multiculturalism and civilization, and instilling in them a sense of responsibility for both the national and global community. Thank you for listening, and happy International Student Day.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity we have to share on this International Students Day. My name is Lane Robinson. It's my pleasure on behalf of the Commonwealth Youth Program and the Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland Casey. We want to really extend congratulations to all student leaders across the Commonwealth for their contribution to student leadership over the last year, and especially over the duration of the pandemic. The Commonwealth is extremely pleased to be associated and to cooperate and to partner with the Commonwealth Students Association. And this year is the 10th anniversary of the Commonwealth Students Association. The Students Association was first established in Mauritius at the 18th Commonwealth Conference of Education Ministers, where education ministers alongside student leaders felt it was an appropriate time for us to bring student leadership to the fore on education policy and more wide-ranging social and political policies across the Commonwealth. So the Students Association is actually one of the first major institutions for student or youth governance across the Commonwealth. And we're very proud as the Commonwealth Secretariat to be associated with the Students Association over these last 10 years. The Students Association was established to bring together the voices and perspectives of student leaders on a variety of issues, including education. And what we have seen over the last 10 years has been outstanding leadership and coordination among National Students Association. There's still a lot of work to be done, but we are very pleased for the leadership and coordination that we have seen through the students' executives over the last few years. I want to pay particular tribute to the outgoing executive members under the chairmanship of Dr. Maisha Rissa from Singapore, who came into the Students Association at a very challenging time and has been providing sterling contribution and leadership over these few years. We want to thank you, outgoing executive members, for your work and extended work. And we know you spent much longer than you had intended because of the pandemic and other related issues. But we're very proud of the contribution that you have made to the Commonwealth in terms of your leadership. The incoming executive will have a lot of work to do to rebuild the role and contribution of student leaders across the Commonwealth, but we hope that the Secretariat will be able to continue its support for you, especially as we look towards 2023. We're very fortunate that our heads have seen it extremely important to deem 2023 the Commonwealth Year of Youth as we mark the 50th anniversary of the Commonwealth Youth Program. Next year presents for us an exciting opportunity for student leaders from all 5 regions to really come together to promote the role and contribution that student leadership can play in moving the Commonwealth forward. And I want to just call on all student leaders, wherever you are, to really plan for and commit to doing a lot of creativity and innovation and promotion of student leadership in 2023. We look forward to working with the incoming executive members and would really want to congratulate them for offering themselves as leaders for the association at this very critical time in its history. The Commonwealth is very excited about 2023, and of course we'd want to outline to everyone listening the importance of rebuilding youth development, youth leadership across the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth Charter, I think, says it best in Article 13, where it says that the future success of the Commonwealth rests with the contribution and support of our young people. And that speaks volumes for the thought behind the Commonwealth Youth Program, the thought behind our engagement strategies for young people, the thought behind establishing institutions such as the Commonwealth Students Association and the Commonwealth Youth Council and the many youth networks, because the Commonwealth will not grow and flourish in the way that we'd want to do it unless and until our student leaders are driving that agenda, unless and until our youth leaders are driving that agenda. So we look forward to an exciting 2023. We look forward to an exciting year. We look forward for an exciting time with the new executive, and we wish for them all a prosperous term in office. But today is all about International Students Day, and so we want to congratulate all our student leaders, all our national students associations at all levels across the Commonwealth for your promotion of youth leadership and student leadership in your countries. The International Students Day was first established with the idea that students have a role to play in promoting peace and unity, and that work continues even to today. And so it gives me great pleasure to support you on your special day, to congratulate you on this special day, but to do more, to really encourage you to commit or recommit to promoting student leadership across the Commonwealth, to growing student associations where they now don't exist, to helping student leaders become the kinds of leaders that they need to be in this very challenging time when education itself needs to be re-examined and rethought in the context of new innovations, new technologies, a digital age. And so we look forward to working with our students associations. On behalf of the Commonwealth Secretary General, on behalf of the staff and members of the Commonwealth Youth Program and all our leaders from across the Commonwealth, I think we want to say to you congratulations on International Students Day, and we wish for you and all your associations all the very best as you champion the rights of students across the world.
Warm, sunny greetings from Jamaica on this International Students Day. My name is Benjamin Fraser, and I have been elected as the chairman of the Commonwealth Students Association. Let me first acknowledge the outgoing team that has done a tremendous job of leading the CSA from 2018 to this our handing over period. Dr. Maisha Risa, Winnie, Ajani, Marawan, Shomi, Ketan, and to our coordinator Precious, well done. And to the incoming team, led by yours truly, I am excited for the prospects and for what we will accomplish together. Over the next 12 months, I will be working with my team to make the CSA truly sustainable and independent by mobilizing the resources needed. If the CSA is unable to mobilize the resources required for it to discharge its global mandate, it runs the risk of being an organization full of just potential on paper. A beautiful vision, a well-written mission, and a robust constitution, but little impact. I'm deeply grateful to the visionary architects and student leaders of the CSA who in 2012 envisioned that it would one day have its own secretariat and have its own headquarters, its own resources, funding, and budget to discharge its function. And in its 10th year, the year ahead of the Year of Youth, I am determined to realize that vision. The CSA will be exploring partnerships of joint enterprising. For the last 4 years, we've written several proposals, applied for several grants, but we have been unsuccessful. I strongly believe that it is time for youth to move away from just looking to NGOs and governments for funding, for handouts to support our initiatives. We can creatively generate our own funding, create income streams to fund our projects. The CSA has partnered with KidsSpeak in publishing and distributing educational resources for children, particularly resources that introduce them to critical soft skills such as public speaking and leadership. Just envision with me, 1.2 billion youth across the Commonwealth. Can we find a handful of governments willing to invest in 1 million copies of the resources that the CSA and KidsSpeak will jointly release? If we achieve that, we would be well set to fund several projects that we have had on paper for years, supporting women and girls' education, expanding digital literacy, tertiary education funding, providing scholarships, providing grants for our members to undertake grassroots projects.
I can be a great public speaker.
One more time.
I can be a great public speaker.
All right. Can you envision with me the 60% of the Commonwealth is 1.2 billion youth? Can we find a handful of governments willing to partner with the organization it committed to supporting in 2012 by purchasing 1 billion copies of the books for circulation, 1.2 billion youth, 1 million copies of its resources, so that we can add value to their youth, and we would gain the funds that we need to properly carry out our mandate. Because the fact is this, we cannot continue to operate like this. The CSA will remain a fiction of what it should be if it is not properly resourced. And so this International Students' Day, we have invited our colleagues from across the Commonwealth to debate this moot point. Should governments be required to support the financial viability of student movements? I'm looking forward to a conversation being built around this important topic of funding.
Hello everyone, I am Moot from the Republic of the Gambia, currently the Serving Secretary General of the University of the Gambia Students' Union, and I appear before you today to debate on the motion that students' governments should rely on governments for financial viability. My team and I would be debating against this important motion. As the first speaker, the following are my points. One is that if students' government rely on governments for financial viability, the student government may find itself in a very funny situation wherein the impartiality of the students' government would be questioned in instances where the government have political tussles with opposition political parties in the country. And then secondly, the student government may find itself underfunded, wherein it has issues with the sitting government. Let's say in instances where the government have issues with students of that particular country. And then, as we might know, students' government are expected to defend and uphold the interests of students under its membership or tutelage. So in that regard, the student government may find itself underfunded, wherein it has issues with the sitting government. And again, on my third point, if student governments continue to receive funding from the government, that is the state government, it may find the student government, silent on salient issues that may affect students or citizens or residents of that particular country. Let's say, for instance, where a government may trample on the rights and privileges of politicians in that country because the politician chooses to go against the dictates or the dictums of that sitting government. So of course we understand that student government are of course responsible for advocating for the rights of the people, particularly the underprivileged, and of course the rights and interests of its membership. So on my third point, the fact that students government receive funding from governments governments may request from student government to perhaps endorse them during political elections or political activities. So that way, the student government may find itself in a very funny situation, like I said earlier, where they refuse to endorse the political ambitions and whims and caprices of the sitting government. It may find itself underfunded as well. On that note, I will hand over the baton to my...
Greetings everyone, my name is Rawa Manuge and I am representing Papua New Guinea. I have 2 points of argument as to why student movements should rely on government funding for financial viability. The first point being that student movements help the neglected and underprivileged communities, and the second point being that student movements create a platform for impactful social change. My first point is that student movements help the underprivileged and neglected communities. In an article by Emmanuel Odorica, published in 2022, titled Student Movements and Politics in Latin America, A History Conceptualization, states that student movements have played a significant political role in Latin America. It talks about how student movements were the drive to social change and university reforms and etc. To this date, due to change of their agendas, they now focus on eradicating violence against women. It is no lie that a lot of our third world nation governments fail to adequately address issues in our nations. Student movements can be that effective helping hand. When student movements rely on government funding, there is no doubt that student movements will help where the government lacks, without the financial stress on students and their leaders. In a way, the government empowers and equips students to effectively face challenges that they will be facing in the near future. My second point is that student movements create a platform for impactful social change. In an article by BIRCI Journal published in 2022 titled Changing World Order, Student Movements and Radicalism, it talks about the Indonesian student movement. In that article, it stated, and I quote, "We can see that students are the motor of the movement. Students are the agents of change who can change the direction of a change." For example, the 2011 Chilean student movement. It was one of the most impactful social movements that involved over 200,000 people because they disagreed with the proposed 2012 budget law. And according to The Economist, it was one of the world's lowest level of public funding for higher education. It is a clear example of how impactful a student movement can be. When student movements rely on government funding, there will be a reduction of financial stress on student movements and their leaders. Hence, less stress, a boost in their academics and social influence, and etc. There will also be a guarantee of a positive outcome in whatever projects or initiatives that they're engaged in. Relying on the government would mean a stability in finances without the extra financial stress on the students, which would equal to a more positive impact on whatever projects that they're carrying out that will contribute positively to the growth of a nation.
Good day, I'm Stephanie Green, a member of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students representing Jamaica. We stand firmly against the moot. Student movement should rely on their governments for financial viability, because not only does this decrease their level of self-sufficiency, it encourages blind obedience, submission to authority, herd behavior, and of course dependence. And not only that, it also propounds lower standards for student representation through equality. Now, student movement should ultimately seek to mature to a structure of self-sufficiency, or at least create income streams which will reduce their reliance on government funding. Student movement should also try to operate on a no strings attached basis, so that this will allow them to learn to be resourceful and sustainable. Government funding disallows this and forms a system of dependency as opposed to self-sufficiency. Now, with student bodies feeling more dependent than independent, it will begin to blur the lines between their mission and that of the governments. Because even though it oftentimes seems like it's overlooked in occasions where it does occur, sometimes governments don't act in the absolute best interest to foster the growth and development of students under their constituency. Additionally, student movements relying on government funding also propounds lower standards for student representation through equality, because government education restricts most children to the lowest common denominator, if we're being honest. Now, increased autonomy over student affairs in any student body boosts the capacity of student leaders to combat the aforementioned challenges enforced by government bodies in the first place. It also gives them that extra push to loudly and fearlessly challenge or negotiate with governments for improvements in education. With this, we affirm our stance against the moot. Student movement should rely on their governments for financial viability, because student government should ultimately seek to mature to a structure of self-sufficiency, or at least create income streams which will reduce their reliance on government funding. Enterprising also must be included in the financial ecosystem of student governments, because increased autonomy over student affairs boosts the capacity of student leaders to challenge government bodies for improvements in education. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I trust we are all well. You're speaking to Nabot Decelestino all the way from Namibia. I am the National Secretary for Political, Research and International Affairs for the Namibia National Students Organization. At the same time, I am the team captain for Team B as well as the first speaker for Team B. In my team, I have Comrade Rawa, who will be our second speaker, and she's all the way from Papua New Guinea. And our third speaker will be Comrade Shaikh, all the way from Bangladesh. And in today's debate, we are going to unpack, ladies and gentlemen, the motion which clearly states that, and I quote, that student bodies should rely on their government for financial viability. Well, we are then in support of this motion to say, yes, indeed, student bodies must rely on their governments for funding. They must rely on their government for sustainability. They must rely on their government for their day-to-day operational activities. Number one, ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that student bodies must be regarded as a public good by our governments. And there must be a public good that government must be able to invest in. Public good is basically services that is available for all members of society. In this context, students and learners. So why are we then saying that student bodies are a public good and governments must be able to invest in them? We must understand that the nature of responsibilities that is entrusted upon student bodies is one that is able to advance the educational sectors in all forms by being able to hold government accountable at all levels. We must also further understand that these student bodies are operating at all levels, right, across the country. They are representing students from all corners of every country that they are in charge of. And as such, they must be able to be given certain responsibilities, certain funds for them to be able to sustain themselves, for them to be able to be visible in all areas of the country so that they successfully carry out the mandate that is entrusted upon them. And as such, it must be noted by government that the responsibility of these student bodies is one that is advancing the agenda of the country, the agenda of the education sector, and the agenda of the students. And as such, they need to be regarded as a stakeholder of government. And that is particularly my second point, ladies and gentlemen. Student bodies are, apart from having to ensure that they hold government accountable, they are a stakeholder of government in a manner that, apart from the points that I've already mentioned, they are also responsible for influencing policies that are going to assist the education sector in growing. They are going to submit relevant submissions in different areas or in different sectors, especially when it concerns education, that is going to assist government in running the education sector of the government. And as such, government must then meet student bodies halfway in ensuring that at the end of the day, student bodies are able to receive the funding, are able to sustain themselves, and they are able to ensure that they are fulfilling the mandate of advancing the education sector in the country and addressing students' plights within their country. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Sheikh Rifat Mahmood, Chairman of SRI Welfare Foundation, Bangladesh. Greetings to all. The 19th Conference of Commonwealth Education Ministers was held in Nassau. In this conference, education for sustainable development is recognized as a priority for future planning by ministers, as well as the role of education at the heart of the process for driving the SDGs. In discussions, ministers noted the Commonwealth Ministerial Working Group was significant and valued input to the education component of the SDGs, considered within the national context of each country. In this declaration, Commonwealth values of equality, access, and development, stressing the key role of education for sustainable development are highlighted. Ministers recognize the key role that early childhood education plays as the foundation for all lifelong learning and wider social and economic outcomes, and the need for continued and appropriate investment in this space. Ministers are also mindful of the need by committing of public institutions to retain effective, positive, and accountable partnerships with the private sector and the civil society. Ministers call for continued efforts to ensure that those who have not completed school or not had access to basic education or wish to continue their professional development. Ministers are also committed to developing lifelong distance and technical vocational education and training. In Nassau Declaration, many points are highly highlighted. Those are education and sustainable development in small states, quality and equality in education. We should conduct an assessment of all Commonwealth countries who have acted on the commitment, and we should call upon government who have ignored financial plight of their student leaders to reserve their neglect now. With government funding, students' unions are able to play more effective roles because student unions do not have much money. They cannot expand their activities at different times. Students unions can work on various new initiatives if they get governmental funding, among which climate meeting, student awareness meeting, seminar, quiz competition are significant. Student organization recognition's purpose is to create connections, expand skill, and explore different elements. The purpose of student organizations is to help students and improve their experience in different ways. It is important because it holds the capacity to develop students into better individuals.
Student council representatives in classrooms across the Commonwealth, student union executives on our tertiary campuses, teams of leaders of our national student organizations. My message to you is stay the course. You are the vanguards of literacy, numeracy, affordable education, access to education. Your role is essential to the protection of the right to education, our democracy, and our common future. Thank you.
Greetings from the Commonwealth Students Association. Myself Alit Sijaria, and I am the incoming regional representative Asia in the new Executive Council. As we celebrate this International Students' Day under the shadow of the Iranian student movement and the crackdown on the same, it is important that we create platforms to strengthen students' voices. And it is exactly this that the Commonwealth Students Association is aspiring to do. We bring forth a call for blogs, whereby we invite articles from you all. The broader theme that we have chosen is student-led innovations and local context of the students' right movement. These are two exclusive themes, and you might choose either of them. And under them, we have also brought forth 4 prompts for you all. 1. Innovations in contemporary student movement. 2. Global/national trends in education. 3. Students' organizations in developing countries. And 4. Students in conflict zones. This is a non-exhaustive list, and you can think of more ideas within the broader theme as well. The only thing that is required for you is to be 1. A Commonwealth citizen, 2. A registered student in one of the Commonwealth countries, or maybe belong to the Commonwealth, and finally submit an article or blog representing the broader theme in less than 800 words to the mail ID that is provided in the call for blogs by 30th of November. We'd then be going forth all the submissions, and the Commonwealth Secretariat and the team responsible for the blog would be selecting few but diverse and representative ideas which could then be published on Commonwealth and all related platforms. We would try to accommodate as many articles as we can so that a broader and a diverse perspective is bring forth. And this is how we plan to strengthen students' voices this International Students' Day. So let's come together, unite, and all of the student movement be together in this fight against brutality and making sure that no other regime or countries face the same. Thank you.
On behalf of the chairperson and members of the executive team, I would like to offer our sincere appreciation to all participants who have contributed to making this year's International Students' Day a success. Very special thanks to Mr. Lynn Robinson, Head of Social Policy at the Commonwealth Secretariat, for his presence and commitment to this cause. A big thanks to all participating countries, and our distinguished speakers who have debated extensively on the topic. We appreciate the time and resources you have put into the resources and presentation. Thank you very much. We encourage government at all levels to support the fundraising strategy of the CSA, which is aimed at promoting the works of the CSA. We look forward to your involvement and participation at the upcoming Commonwealth Youth Ministers meeting in Pakistan next year. We equally encourage you to continue with your support for the CSA, getting actively involved in our services, promoting and protecting the rights of students from across the Commonwealth. Once again, thank you everyone. This is where we draw the curtain on today's event. We wish you all the very best with your engagements and your programs. Goodbye.